Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And you know, there's one thing about the mainstream media, the fake news, and that is they are reactive. They don't actually consider what is happening in a country and say, hey guys, there's going to be a crisis here in a few months' time, which is something that this channel does do. We say, hey guys, there's going to be a heck of a problem when it comes to food supplies to Southern Africa following this terrible drought that the region has faced. And it's only now, when the crisis has struck and there are people actually starving to death in places like Zimbabwe, that the media suddenly get a light bulb moment and they wake up. Southern Africa is in the throes of a climate emergency with 45 million people facing hunger across the region. Yeah, you heard that right, 45 million. 8 of the hardest hit countries are Zimbabwe, Zambia, Mozambique, Madagascar, Namibia, Lesotho, Eswatini, and Malawi. The United Nations World Food Programme, or WFP, has warned. Zimbabwe is in the throes of its worst hunger emergency in a decade, with 7.7 million people, half the population, seriously food insecure. So too are 20% of the people in Zambia, a long-time regional breadbasket, now having to restrict cereal exports and accept outside assistance. 20% of the population of drought-stricken Lesotho are also now severely hungry, as are 10% of Namibians. The World Food Programme said the figure of 45 million people was a record and affected mainly women and children in the 16-nation Southern African Development Community, following repeated drought, widespread flooding, and economic disarray. That's what happens when you hand over to the black cadres. Yeah, they're all on the take. As the crisis deepens, the world must step up now to save lives and enable communities to adapt to climate change, the UN program has warned. Now, I've got to say, there's a much better idea. And if you're going to save the incredibly fast-growing population of South Africa, you've got to have birth control. Because you can't have more and more kids being born and born and born and born just because they can, and just because people like Bill Gates is bringing in drugs and injections and stuff like that that inoculate them against disease that used to keep the population in balance. The whole population in Africa, not just South Africa, the whole of Africa is totally out of balance. And in another 30 years' time, it's going to be chaotic. But I think before then, there's going to be a huge amount of disease, huge amount of hunger. A lot of people are going to die very slow and painful deaths in South Africa. And I'm talking mainly amongst the black populations. And this has been brought on by these do-gooders. Okay, let's get back to the story. Lolo Castro, the program's regional director for Southern Africa, said, "This hunger crisis is on a scale we have never seen before, and the evidence shows it's going to get worse now. The annual cyclone season has begun, and we simply cannot afford a repeat of the devastation caused by last year's unprecedented storms. While our most pressing priority are the millions in need of immediate support, building the resilience of the many more threatened by increasingly frequent and destructive droughts and storms is absolutely essential," he added. As the lean season deepens ahead of the annual cereal harvest in April-May, the international community must accelerate both emergency assistance to millions of desperately hungry people in Southern Africa and long-term investments to enable the regions vulnerable to withstand the worsening impacts of climate change. Now, just by a note here, in South Africa, the ANC government are going to be expropriating land without compensation. And you're going to be putting on their black cadre mates onto these lands, haven't got a clue how to farm. You know how that's going to exacerbate the situation when it comes to food production in South Africa? It is absolutely, it's like committing suicide. That's what it's like. It's just ridiculous. Self-evident. Anyway, with temperatures rising at twice the global average and most of its food produced by subsistence farmers entirely dependent on increasingly unreliable rains, Southern Africa has had just one normal growing season in the last 5 years. In many places, this season's rains have again arrived late, and experts forecast continuing hot and dry weather in the coming months, presaging yet another poor harvest. The UN program plans to provide lean season assistance to 8.3 million people grappling with crisis or emergency levels of hunger. To date, it has secured just $205 million of the $489 million required for this assistance, and has been forced to resort heavily to internal borrowing to ensure food reaches those most in need. In a context of already high rates of malnutrition, population growth, inequality, and HIV/AIDS, the hunger crisis has been aggravated by surging food prices, large-scale livestock losses, and mounting joblessness. Families across the region are eating less, skipping meals, taking children out of school, selling off precious assets, and falling into debt. Castro said, "If we don't receive the necessary funding, we'll have no choice but to assist fewer of those most in need, and with less. Nor will we be able to adequately expand longer-term activities vital to meaningful combating the existential emergency that is climate change." Now, as I said earlier in this video, I can tell you what the problem is. It's called birth control. There is no birth control. That is the root of the problem right across Africa. And nothing's going to be done about it, so it's just going to get worse. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, stay safe. Bye for now.